holding on Daf Samech Aleph Amud Bet by the Mishnah all the way on the bottom. Today we're going to do Daf Samech Bet Amud Aleph. Okay? So says the Mishnah, Lo yivatel adam mipirya v'rivya ela im ken yesh lo banim. A person should not stop doing pirya v'rivya until he has banim. Now, what does that mean? So Beit Shammai omrim shnei zecharim. Beit Shammai says that you have to have two boys.
And two girls.
Just two boys. That's what we have in the Mishnah. And then Beit Hillel omrim zachar u'nekeva. Beit Hillel says no, one boy and one girl. Truth is, there's a bit of a machloket exactly. Is Beit Shammai saying in addition to Beit Hillel or not? But either way, the simple understanding is like we have in our Mishnah. Beit Shammai says two boys. Beit Hillel says one boy and one girl. So they learn from, we're going to see where they learn from. The pasuk says, Zachar u'nkeva bera'am. Okay, so says the Gemara, Hayesh lo banim mipirya v'riyah batil mi'isha lo batil. From the Mishnah, it sounds like that if a person has banim, so he doesn't have to be involved in pirya v'rivya anymore, but he still should have a wife. He still should get married. So let's say a person already did pirya v'rivya, and his wife passed away or he got divorced. So it sounds like he still should get married, but he doesn't have to worry about pirya v'rivya. He can marry somebody who cannot have children. Messiah Leila Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. That supports Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. He says even if a person has many children, it's asur to be without a wife. It's machloket whether this is a real isur deoraita or isur derabanan for a person to remain unmarried, even though he doesn't have, even though he did pirya v'rivya. Shneimar lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. The pasuk says lo tov heyot ha'adam levado. It's not good for a person to be alone, even if he's not doing pirya v'rivya. He should remain married. So the truth is, there's a really machloket about this. Let's read till the two dots one more line, and then we'll say. So okay, so there's a discussion what the reason is. They really tried to explain how come you had a lot of gedolim who are not machmir about this. Say their wife passed away or something, and they didn't care to get married for the last 20, 30 years of their life. So the Achronim tried to figure out why not.
They get married right away because they don't want to be alone.
Yeah, so some yes, yeah. But some gedolim no. So they tried to answer, if you have some such great gedolim that they remained single for the last number of years of their life, they didn't try to get married. Why? So some explain that the whole reason is because of hirhurim. And a person at a very old age, and they're not able to perform in that way anymore, that there's no hirhurim, they don't have to, it doesn't apply to them. Or they know for themselves that they're not having hirhurim, they're on that level, so it doesn't apply to them. That's how some explain. Some say a different version of this discussion. Some learn that it sounds like from our Mishnah that if he has a wife and children, he doesn't have to do pirya v'rivya anymore, and that's it. He doesn't have to get married anymore either. That's how some make a diuk from our Mishnah. So then, Nemat Yavetiyufta de Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. This would be not like Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. It would be against him. Right? So the Gemara, because Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel said that if he has children, he should still get married. So the Gemara says, no, it's not a contradiction. Ein lo banim, nosei isha bat banim. If he doesn't have any children, then he should marry somebody who can have children. But yesh lo banim, if he already has children, he should still get married, but just nosei isha delav bat banim. He could get married to a woman who cannot have children. So he can marry someone who's older or something like that cannot have children. He doesn't have to be makpid if he already did pirya v'rivya. Nafkamina limkor sefer Torah b'shvil banim. And one of the nafkaminas is if the person owns a sefer Torah and he doesn't have children. So if he doesn't have children and the only way to marry a woman who can have children is to sell the Sefer Torah, then the Gemara says he should sell the Sefer Torah. But if he already has children, he doesn't need to sell the Sefer Torah, marry somebody else that cannot have children. Okay, Beit Shammai omrim shnei zacharim. So, we said it was machlok Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. Beit Shammai said two boys, Beit Hillel said one boy and one girl to fulfill Pirya Virya. So my time out the Beit Shammai. What's the reason of Beit Shammai that they say two boys? Yafiman mi Moshe. So we learned from Moshe. Moshe had two boys and then he stopped. Right? Dichtiv b'nei Moshe Gershom ve'Eliezer. It says he had two boys, Gershom and Eliezer, and then he stopped doing Pirya Virya. So you see that you're Yotzei with two boys. Beit Hillel yafirim b'riyato shel olam. Beit Hillel says no. We learn from the way that the world was created, that Hashem created Adam and Chava. So we learn from there that a boy and a girl. So now the Gemara says, Beit Shammai leilfu mibriyato shel olam. How come Beit Shammai doesn't say like Beit Hillel that learned from Adam and Chava? Mm-hmm. So it says very simple. Ein danin efshar mishi efshar. You can't. That's the only possibility. Hashem couldn't create two men. The world cannot continue. In order to reproduce more, you need one man and one woman. So Hashem had to create Adam and Chava. You can't learn that that's how you're Yotzei Pirya Virya. That's the only way that Hashem could create the world.
When Chava died, Adam took another wife. No one says.
No, that there's a different thing of before there was an original Chava. There was a Chava Rishona that
the one that attached to the Adam.
The Chida brings. They all bring that there was a different Chava who basically was banished. She became like the head of the Lam. Yeah, right. Yeah. They call her Lametav, and she causes Zer Levatala. She came to Adam Rishon later for he's separate from Chava for many years.
Yeah, because they was attached together and they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Back and back.
Right.
How we could do anything.
Right. Okay.
In this question I asked yesterday, Rabbi Adi.
Yeah.
No one has. How come Hashem created Zachar and Ekor at the same time? Then took from Adam and created Chava separately. Why what's the benefit of the Adam that have a wife against back to back?
Okay, good question. Let's see if we get
we
get an answer afterwards. No, it's a good question, but just let's afterwards we'll see if we have time to think about it and say something.
Okay. Adam and Chava, I just
Right. Okay, so anyways, that's why Beit Shammai doesn't learn from there. They say it's not possible to create the world with two men. You needed a man and a woman. Beit Hillel nami leilfu mi Moshe. How come Beit Hillel doesn't say from Moshe that he had two boys and then he stopped? So you see two boys is Yotzei Pirya Virya. Amrei lecha Moshe mida'atehu da'avad. Moshe is different. He did this, based off of his own. There are a few things that Moshe did on his own, without being told, without Hashem necessarily telling him that this is what you should do. He decided on his own to do it. It was his own decision, and it's asur for other people to, do like what Moshe did.
The Tanya. For a while.
Yeah, so the Gemara is going to the Tanya. Shlosha dvarim asa Moshe mida'ato, v'skima da'ato le'da'at hamakom. The Braita teaches that there's three things that Moshe did on his own without being told from Hashem, and you see at the end that Hashem, agreed with him. One is piresh min ha'isha. He separated from his wife. V'shiberet haluchot. Number two, he broke the luchot. And ve'osif yom echad. And he added one day when Bnei Israel were accepting the Torah on Har Sinai. They had to separate from their wives. He added one day of separation.
I didn't know about this.
Yeah, he added one day. We're gonna one day of before. So Piresh min ha'isha. The first thing, he separated from his wife. My darash. What was Moshe thinking? What drasha did he make that he separated from his wife? So Amar, he said like this. He said, "Uma Yisrael shelo dibra imayim shechina el lefi sha'a vekava lahem zeman." By Bnei Israel, Hashem spoke to them only temporarily by Har Sinai. They heard Hashem's voice, and it was a very specific time. So Amra Torah al tikju leisha. Torah said, you cannot be with your wife for that time period. Okay? So Ani shem yuchad ledibur bechol sha'a. Moshe says myself that I'm, Hashem is available to speak to me at any moment. Bechol sha'a v'sha'a v'lo kaval izman. There's no set time. Alachad kama kama. For sure I have to be separate from my wife. V'eskima da'ato da'at makom, and Hashem agreed with him. Shnei Emar, the pasuk says, Lechem olahem shuvu lachem la'aholechem v'ata po amod imadi. Hashem said, tell them, go sit with your you tell Bnei Israel, you go back to your wives, go back to your tent, go back to your wife. V'ata po amodi b'adi. You Moshe, you stay here with me. Kishiber et haluchot. The next thing was Moshe broke the luchot. So how do we know what's my drasha? What was he thinking? What drasha did he make to do that? Amar, he said, Uma Pesach shu achad mishesh meot v'shalosh esrei mitzvot. Pesach is one of the 613 mitzvahs. Only one mitzvah is Korban Pesach. Amra Torah kol ben nechar lo yochal bo. Torah says someone who's ben nechar, someone who's doing wayward things, they're not following in the ways of the Torah, they should not eat Korban Pesach. So a Torah kula Yisrael mumarim alachad kama v'kama. If Bnei Israel are going off the path and they're doing avodah zarah, that they were doing the egel, and with the whole Torah, for sure they shouldn't have it. If they shouldn't have Korban Pesach, they for sure shouldn't have the whole Torah. So achad kama v'kama. Toso points out there's these kal v'chomers that Moshe is making, and not 100% kal v'chomers. It's his own little drasha. But either way, and Hashem agreed with his cheshbon. Dichtiv, it says asher shibarta at the end of the Torah. It says luchot asher shibarta. So Avam Resh Lakish Amar Lei Hakadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe Yasher Kochacha Shibarta. Asher shibarta is like Yasher Koach that shibarta, that you broke the luchot. So you see that Hakadosh Baruch Hu agreed with his decision. Hosiv Yom Echad Mida'ato. He added one day of separation prior to Har Sinai. My darash, what drasha did he make? Tichtiv, it says in the pasuk, v'kidashtem hayom umachar. So Hashem says you have to sanctify yourselves hayom umachar, today and tomorrow. So Moshe made a drasha, hayom kemachar, that today has to be like tomorrow. Just like today's a day of separation, tomorrow also a day of separation. Amma machar leloimo, just like the next day, the night is included in the day. Right, when he says tomorrow, it's starting from tonight. So afayom leloimo. Also today, the first day of separation, also needs to have the night with it. V'layla deidna nafakle. But at the time that Hashem said the commandment to Moshe to separate, the Bnei Yisrael should separate from their wives before Har Sinai, that was already during the daytime. So night already passed. So when it says hayom umachar, it really means 2 full days, which means in addition to the day that he's being told. So he made that cheshbon. So shma mina treyomi lebar me'aidna. So Moshe said, you see, it must mean that it's 2 days in addition to the today. V'yiskima da'ato da'at hamakom, and this is turns out this is what Hashem wanted him to do. Delo sharia shchina at Shabbata, because the Shechina didn't come down to Har Sinai until Shabbat, which was the 3rd day, not the 2nd day. Okay, Tanya, Rabbi Natan Omer. So Rabbi Natan teaches like this. We said in the Mishnah, Beit Shammai says 2 boys, and Beit Hillel says 1 boy and 1 girl to be Yotzei Pirya V'Rivia. So now, Rabbi Natan brings there are a few different versions of this machlokah. Rabbi Natan Omer Beit Shammai Shnei Zecharim U'Shtei Nekevot. Beit Shammai says you need 2 and 2. He has a different version. Beit Shammai holds 2 boys, 2 girls. Beit Hillel umrim zachar nekeva. Beit Hillel says one boy, 1 girl. So we have a makor for 1 boy, 1 girl. We learned Adam and Chava, 1 boy, 1 girl. So what about the makor for 2 boys and 2 girls? Where does that come from? So Amar Rav Huna my taima de Rabbi Natan aliva de Beit Shammai. What's the reason for Rabbi Natan according to Beit Shammai? How come he says that Beit Shammai holds you need 2 boys and 2 girls? Where does that come from? So Dichtiv, it says in the pasuk, Vatosef laledet et achiv et havel. So the pasuk says when Adam and Chava had children, so it says Vatosef laledet et achiv, she had Cain, and then Vatosef laledet et achiv et hevel, she had Hevel. So it says et and et, right? Et achiv et hevel. So et is coming to include something. So Hevel v'achoto, Cain v'achoto. So they really had 4. They had Hevel plus a sister and Cain plus a sister. They each were born with a twin sister. So you see that they had 2 boys, 2 girls.
Each
now,
boy twin, going to be the twin sister.
Yeah, Cain was born with it.
They said they're born with the nekeva.
Yeah. So each one, Cain, it says et achiv et. So from each time it says et, we're learning that a sister, et is always coming to include something. So we're learning that a sister was included. So Cain plus a sister, Hevel plus a sister. So now, why is this? How do we know that that's what you need to be Mekayem Periyav Rivia? Because after Hevel, right, Cain killed Hevel. After Hevel died, they had another son, Shet, right? Uchtiv Kishat li Elokim Zera Acher Tachat Hevel. That the pasuk says that Hashem, replaced me another child in place of Hevel. So it sounds like I didn't do Periyav Rivia, and now that I have the replacement, now I completed it. So right, ki harago Cain, because Cain killed Hevel, so this was the replacement. So it sounds like she needed to be mashlim, the 2 and 2 to complete the Periyav Rivia. V'Rabbanan, and Rabbanan, they say odui hu dekam modit. She's just giving a hoda'ah to Hashem. She's not saying I did this, Hashem gave me this replacement to complete Periyav Rivia. She's just thanking Hashem for the child. Yeah. Meaning they're having a machloket. When she says, Kishat li Elohim zera acher tachat hevel ki harago Cain, when she has Shet, and she says Hashem gave me a child as a replacement for Hevel, so one way of understanding is she needed this replacement to fulfill Periyav Rivia. Another way of understanding is no, she didn't need that replacement. She just is saying thank you to Hashem. It's just a hoda'ah that Hashem gave her a child in place of her child that passed away, but not because she needs me. Right, that's true. Well, that's true. But still, we're learning from her words that, whether for her husband you fulfilled the. Okay, Tanya Idach. Another version of this, another Braita, which is a little bit different, is Rabbi Natan Omer, Beit Shammai Omrim Zachar Nekeva. In this version, Beit Shammai says one boy, one girl. Ubeit Hillel Omrim O Zachar O Nekeva. And Beit Hillel says you just need one child. It could be a boy, it could be a girl. So now, what would be the Mekor for that? So Amar Rava Maita Amad Rabbi Natan Aliba the Beit Hillel. What would be the reason to have either one boy or one girl? Shnei Emar, it says in the pasuk, Lo to bera'ah lashevet yitzara. So this pasuk is going to come up a few times. That Hashem didn't create the world for emptiness. Hashem created the world to be lashevet, to be inhabited, to be, for people to live in it. So ha'avad leshevet and v'ha'avad leshevet. And when he has either one boy or one girl, he's populating the world. So that would be enough. So that's the Makor that according to Rabbi Natan, he says that Beit Hillel holds either one boy or one girl would be enough. Okay, Itmar. Gemara brings a question, a discussion.
You see, they said Evel, the only reason he killed Cain because of his wife.
Oh, okay, that's brought down that Cain killed Hevel because he was jealous of. Because I think he came with two.
Evel's got one.
Yeah, he got two. He got two.
Jealous and he killed him.
Right, that's one of the things I wrote down. Yeah. Okay, Hayu lo banim bioto oved kochavim v'nitgayer. So the question is like this: somebody had children, right? Periyav Rivia is also said by Bnei Noach, by before Matan Torah, by Adam Rishon already. The Torah says Peru urvu milu ataris v'kivshua. So Periyav Rivia is, the truth is, it's a question whether Goyim have also Periyav Rivia. Tosfot points out from a different Gemara, sounds not like that, but let's just assume that it applies to Goyim on some level as well. So now the question is like this: somebody had children as a Goy, and then he converted. So is he Yotze Periyav Rivia or no? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar Kiyem Periyav Rivia. Rabbi Yochanan says, yeah, he had fulfilled Periyav Rivia. Ta'avule, because he has children. Rish Lakish Amar Lo Kiyem Periyav Rivia. Rish Lakish says, no, he did not fulfill Periyav Rivia. Why? Because ger shnit gayer kekatan shenolad dami. Because when a person becomes a ger, he's like a new person. He's like a katan shenolad, and he's disconnected from his previous life. So he didn't fulfill Periyav Rivia. Okay. Now the truth is a machloket here, machloket rishonim. Are we talking about that the children converted also, or no? Meaning the Rambam learns this whole thing, this whole machloket that Rabbi Yochanan says if somebody had children and then he converted, he fulfilled Periyav Rivia. That means the whole family converted. The children also converted. If the children didn't convert, then nobody says he fulfilled Periyav Rivia. That's the opinion of the Rambam. which is what the Shulchan Aruch brings down la'alacha also. But some of the Achronim bring down. There's another
if somebody
opinion.
they're gonna have a baby. They want adopt one
Yeah.
boy, one girl. They made a mitzvah. What I think.
No. You're yotze not through. You're not yotze period through adoption.
So the guy doesn't have any.
It's creating children. No, but we're talking about a ger. He had children. He converted, and according to the Rambam, the children also converted. Is he yotze periyav revia or not? Right, that's machloket Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Others learn the machloket is even if the children didn't convert. Rabbi Yochanan says he's still yotze. But either way, let's go like the Rambam, like the Shulchan Aruch. That we're talking about everybody converted, right? So the question is he yotze periyav revia or not? So Reish Lakish says he's not yotze. Rabbi Yochanan says yotze. V'azdu leta'amayu, and they both go according to their own reasoning, according to their own psak. Deitmar, hayu lo banim biyoto oved kochavim. Let's say somebody had children when he was still oved kochavim. V'nit gayer, and then he converted. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ein lo b'chor lenachala. Rabbi Yochanan says any child that he has now is not going to be a bechor. He already had children, so if he has a child now, after he converted, he's not gonna. That child is not considered a bechor to get a double portion. Dahavu lereshito no, because he already had a child that was his first. He already had that from before. Reish Lakish Amar yesh lo bechor lenachala gersh nitgayer katan shenolad dami. Reish Lakish says no, he still has a bechor for nachala because you have this rule gersh nitgayer katan shenolad dami, and he's a new person. He's disconnected from his past family. And therefore, when he has a child after converting, that's considered a bechor. So, we have these two cases. It's basically the same machloke between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, like, double. On the one hand, we have a machloket if somebody has children as a goy, and then he converts, Rabbi Yochanan says, is yotze periyav revia. Reish Lakish says no. And we also have a machloket. If somebody had a child and then he converts and he has a child afterwards, is that child a bechor or not? Rabbi Yochanan says no. He already has children from before. This new one is not a bechor. Reish Lakish says no. He's a ger shenit gayer kekatan shenolad dam. He's like a new person, and the new child is a bechor. So why do we need both of these machlokets? It's both the same thing. The question is he connected to his previous family or not? So v'tzricha, the Gemara says you need both machlokets. If you would have only told me the first machloket by a ger doing periyav revia that he had children.
She had already periyav revia.
He had, and then they converted. Everybody converted.
The periyav revia, the mechor is the peter rechem. He has to come from rechem. Peter rechem, yeah.
Peter rechem is not. That's a different thing.
I know they use it for the other thing.
That's the lashon of the pasuk by bechor behema.
But I know. But if somebody doesn't have, like I ask you, if doesn't adopt, is the because of Peter Rechem?
Yeah, the periyav revia is creating a child. Peter rechem could not include C-section. Periyav revia includes C-section. It just means Peter rechem is different.
I mean, it has to come from her body.
It's
all her body. I'm not come from the bottom like you said, C-section or emergency, whatever they have to do.
Yeah.
That comes from inside your body.
Correct. The child has to be created. That's periyav revia. Right. So.
But still, ger is from her mom.
But the question is the child, we're talking about everybody converted. So they had children the guy had children as a goy, the Rama. The guy had children as a goy. They had a whole family. Now everybody converted. At least the father and the children converted. So was he yotze periyav revia or no? That's machloket Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. So we need to say the machloket about periyav revia, and we also need to say the machloket about bechor. Why? Because v'tzricha. Where is it? V'tzricha diyash min b'ahi kamaita. If it would have just told us the machloket about periyav revia, b'ahi kamar b'Yochanan mishum demeikar nami b'nei periyav revia v'ninhu. I would have thought no, Rabbi Yochanan only by the case of bechor. By the case of periyav revia, he says that the goy who converted now is Jewish is connected to the children, he's Yotze Piriyav Rivya because he was already Yotze, because by Goyim also it mentions Piriyav Rivya. So it says Peru, Ru, Miloat, Arz, Vekivshua. By Goyim also it says Piriyav Rivya. So once he accomplished it as a Goy, and then he converted it, we're not going to take it away from him. Aval Inyan Nachala, but when it comes to him having a child that's a Bechor, so the Goyim don't have the concept of a Bechor getting a double portion. Dilav B'nei Nachala Ninhu. So Ema Modu Resh Lakish, I would have thought that he agrees to Resh Lakish that he's not connected to the child as a Bechor. V'yitmar Beha, and if it would have only said in the second case, the Machloket about a Bechor, so Beha Kama Resh Lakish. I would have thought Resh Lakish only says by the case of Bechor that Ger Shenit Gayer Kekatan Shenolad Dami. Aval Ba'i Ema Model Rabbi Yochanan. But in the first case of Piriyav Rivya, I would have thought, since it applies to Goyim as well, he would agree to Rabbi Yochanan that the guy is Yotze Piriyav Rivya. Okay. So Tzricha. Eiteve, let's continue a little bit. Eiteve Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asked Reish Lakish the following question. Beitai Shalach Baradan Beladan Ben Beladan Melech Bavel. Point is, that you have in this pasuk Beladan Ben Beladan Melech Bavel. You have a goy who's miyuchas after his father. So what do you see from here? You see that they're connected to their father. There is a yichus by goyim as well. So that sounds like what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, that the child is miyuchas after him, and he completes Piriyav Rivya. So Amar Le, so Reish Lakish tells him, no, Biotan of the Kochavim Midlu Chayis. When it's still going, so there is a yichus. But Nitgayeru Ledu Chayis. When they convert, there's no yichus anymore. Amar Rav, we'll do a few more lines. Amar Rav, Hakol Modim Be'eved She'en Lo Chayis. Everyone agrees by an Eved that there's no yichus. An Eved's children are not miyuchas after him. Dichtiv Shevu lachem po aim achamor, ama domeh lachamor. That very famous drasha that Avraham tells. He says Shevu lachem po aim achamor, ima domeh lachamor, which is referring to Eliezer, who's an eved that is considered domeh lachamor. That his yichus is not miyuchas after him. Meiteve, the Gemara asks a question on this. It says Ultzivah chamisha asar banim ve'esrim avadim. So Tzivah was an eved of one of the kings. Rashi says it was an eved of Mepiboshet. So it says he had 15 children and 10 avadim. So you see that he had children, that the pasuk is being miaches his children after him. So you see that an eved does have yichus.
You're talking about Eved, or you're talking about Ger?
Eved. Right now we're talking about an eved. An eved, Kanani, doesn't have yichus. That everybody would agree basically by an eved Kanani who has children, he's mishuchrar, he didn't fulfill Piriyav Rivya. So Amar Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, Kepar Ben Bakar. This is when it says that Tziva has children, that's like Par Ben Bakar. It's not an actual yichus. It's just saying that he has kids, but not that the children are miyuchas after him with regard to any halacha. So Yachi Hachanami, the Gemara says if that's the case, so then when it says Beladan Ben Beladan also by Goyim that there's yichus and they also have an inyan of Piriyav Rivya, that also just say it's like Par Ben Bakar. It's not just like animals don't have Piriyav Rivya. Well, like a cow doesn't have Piriyav Rivya. So the Gemara says Shani Hatam Diachasinu Bishmaihu. No, that's different because it mentions their names. So when you're mentioning the name, that's more of a yichus. Uvishma Davun. It's their name and their father's name. Ploni Ben Ploni. That already is a yichus. But by Tziva, by the Eved, it didn't say that. It just said, this Eved had this many kids. It didn't say this child is Ploni Ben Ploni. Right? V'acha lo mefaresh. By the Eved, doesn't say their names, Ploni Ben Ploni. By Temar, another explanation is Yachasinhu Beduchta Achariti. In a different place, it actually is Meyaches, the Ovdei Kochavim, Ba'avun Va'avadavun. It goes back 2 generations, their father and their grandfather. Dichtiv, it says, Vayishlachem HaMelech Asa, Ben Hadad, Ben Tavrimon, Ben Chazion, Melech Aram. So Melech of Aram was Ovdei Kochavim, Ben Hadad, Ben Tavrimon, Ben Chazion. So you see that it will be meyaches after the father. Hayoshev the Masek Lemor, etc. Okay, so we're by where it says Itmar for tomorrow.
If a family they become a ger,